Child labor, although an outdated practice that is detrimental to society, is still rampant in many parts of the developing and undeveloped worlds. This is no exception in our home country Pakistan, where even in developed cities like Islamabad, you will find a 10-year-old working as an assistant in a car repair shop. Our project aimed to find the driving factors of child labor in Pakistan, shed light on its consequences on the physical well-being, mental development, education, and futures of children, as well as raise awareness on how this issue can be controlled and combated by individuals and organizations. In order to do this, we interviewed NGOs and children to gain some perspective on the local mindset. Our team also created an online questionnaire asking about the public's awareness and opinions on the situation of child labor in Pakistan. From responses to the survey, we found that most people believed poverty to be the most important cause of child labor. We also interviewed Akil Abbasi, the program manager at Child Care Foundation Pakistan, so we could obtain an expert's opinion on the issue. This was his response to being asked about the causes of Pakistan's high child labor rates.
तो उसमें मेन वजह यही है, मैंने पहले आपको बताया है कि हमारा जो एक्सपीरियंस है, जो हमने देखा है कि बच्चों के वहाँ पे जो दूर दराज गाँव हैं वहाँ पे एक्सेस नहीं है, इसलिए पेरेंट्स जो हैं वो ज्यादा बच्चों को इसलिए वो उनको स्कूल में नहीं भेजते हैं क्योंकि एक्सेस नहीं है बच्चों के, तो वो फिर जाहिर है बच्चों को फिर चाइल्ड लेबर मजबूरन चाइल्ड लेबर भी करनी पड़ती है.
The situation is further exacerbated by the fact that education is often too expensive, ineffective, or seen as unessential by parents. It is also true that in Pakistan, many employers hire children as their wages are lower than those of adults.
अच्छा, यहाँ पे कब से काम कर रहे हैं आप? 3 साल हो गए. कितने? 150 रुपये दिन में. और दिन में कब आते हैं? सुबह. शाम को कब जाते हैं? तो 11 घंटों में आप 150 कमाते हैं.
Their docile and obedient natures lead to the fact that children themselves are powerless and silent, allowing employers to take advantage of this by imposing high working hours to gain an edge over competing corporations. These inhumane working conditions that children are forced to work in have a multitude of negative effects on their development, both physically and mentally. Physical strain caused by demanding activities such as staying bent over for long time periods and repetitive gestures such as in the sewing industry, as well as lack of fresh air and exposure to toxic gases in the mining and brick-kiln industries create permanent abnormalities, chronic diseases like asthma and other physical issues in their growing bodies.
These issues also extend into mental issues in children, as extreme stress created by cramped workspaces, harsh daily work quotas, staying away from family for long periods of time, as well as physical, verbal, and sexual abuse, stunt mental development in children and lead to many psychological disorders, including anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Another way children are affected by child labor is that their futures are put in jeopardy. This is because many child workers choose not to pursue education, as they want some free time after their high working hours, and others are unable to earn enough to pay school fees. The fact that they earn very little money also contributes to them not being able to get higher up the work ladder, as they may not be able to shift to cities where they cannot pay rent for living space, or because they simply are not qualified because they do not even have a basic level of education. Through our research and interviews, we came to the conclusion that child labor in Pakistan cannot be eradicated entirely because of how far it is ingrained in our society and culture. To get an idea of what Pakistan should do to improve the conditions regarding child labor, we conducted research on its situation in the UK. Our group found that child labor rates are virtually 0% in the UK because the government has been vigilant in its enforcement of labor laws. This stops illegal forms of forced child labor. But to stop parents from sending children to work themselves, the government has allocated funds to children as well as schools and hospitals so that children receive free schooling and healthcare till the age of 16, as well as funds to take care of basic expenses. The mindset in UK is also different from that in Pakistan, in that families are planned so that the children can all be supported, and education is more valued, meaning that parents do not consider children to be sources of income. Another way that Pakistan is lagging behind is that the government does not give enough funds to the education sector, resulting in low quality education, with the only other alternative being private schools which are unaffordable by poorer families.
In conclusion, the government of Pakistan cannot adopt the UK's policy as the education and healthcare sectors do not receive enough funding. However, Pakistan should still take steps to enforce child labor laws more vigilantly and slowly reform in the education sector. Through our research and interviews, we came to the conclusion that Pakistan cannot eradicate it entirely because of how far it is ingrained in our society and culture.
एज अ पाकिस्तानी मैं तो यही कहूंगा कि इसको आप कभी भी नहीं कह सकते कि हमारे मुल्क से चाइल्ड लेबर खत्म हो सकती है, खत्म भी नहीं हो सकती, और इसके कोई अभी तक जो है गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे और प्राइवेट लेवल पे भी कोई इसके इतने मेजर्स जो है अब तक फाइनल नहीं हो सके, क्योंकि अभी तक हमारे जो 2 करोड़ 3 करोड़ बच्चा जो है वो स्कूलों से बाहर है, ठीक है। तो जाहिर है ये मुख्तलिफ सर्वे और मुख्तलिफ एजेंसीज के सर्वे, गवर्नमेंट के सर्वे ये डिफरेंट रहे हैं और ये हर साल तब्दील भी होते रहते हैं, उस पर काम भी हो रहा है। लेकिन मैं समझता हूँ कि पहले की निस्बत जहाँ जिन एरियाज में हम काम करते थे, जिसमें पाकिस्तान के अंदर जो आप मैं बता दूं, पंजाब में जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट शेखुपुरा, ननकाना, गुजरांवाला और फैसलाबाद में हमारा फोकस एरिया है, तो यहाँ पे पहले बिल्कुल ही कंसेप्ट नहीं था एजुकेशन का। तो जब से हमने वहाँ पे काम शुरू किया और बाकी एनजीओज ने काम शुरू किया, तो अब लोगों के अंदर काफी हद तक अवेयरनेस आ चुकी है। अब बच्चों को पढ़ने में बड़ी आसानी हो रही है और उनको जो पहले क्योंकि उनके पास बिल्कुल वो नहीं था, बिल्कुल पता ही नहीं था कि क्या स्कूल के बारे में। तो अब जो हमने उसको थोड़ा सा मोबिलाइज किया है, तो हमारी मोबिलाइजेशन से ये फायदा हुआ है कि पेरेंट्स के अंदर अब ये चीज जाग चुकी है, वो समझते हैं कि अब हमारे बच्चों को पढ़ाना चाहिए। उसमें बच्चों के खास तौर पर जो उनकी माएँ हैं, उनको जो हम प्रोग्रामिंग करते हैं उनकी, और उनके जो हम सेशन रखते हैं, उस सेशन के अंदर, क्योंकि बच्चे की माँ अगर एजुकेटेड होगी तो बच्चा स्कूल आएगा। इसकी निस्बत अगर आप उसके बाप को कहते हैं तो वो इतना मोबिलाइज नहीं होता, उसकी माँ मोबिलाइज होती है और वो बच्चे को पढ़ाना चाहती है। क्योंकि अभी तक जो आप अगर लेवल चेक करें तो उसमें बाप का जो रोल है वो इतना ज्यादा नहीं है जितना माँ का रोल है।
This may make the situation sound bleak, however, it does not mean that we cannot do anything about it. We should work towards improving the situation that child workers themselves face. To do this, children should be given more humane conditions to work in, be disqualified from dangerous and hazardous work, and be rehabilitated if they face mental issues. An overall improvement in the situations of poverty and education in Pakistan would also allow more children to obtain education and lift the burden many take on their shoulders to support their families. To this end, many NGOs like Spark, CCFP, and ILO work to spread awareness about the issue and launch projects to educate and support young children so that they can have the futures free of the shackles that child labor binds them in. We, as individuals, can also drive change by both donating to these organizations and spreading awareness to our friends and families through social media.
Now, prior to our group project, I knew that child labor is a problem that existed in society, but after looking into the issue, I found out that it is not only a violation of human rights, but a menace eating off at our economy slowly and gradually. Now, child labor is more widespread and prevalent than I thought it was, as some of the main industries such as the carpet weaving, mining, and brick-kiln industries exploit children for their low wages. These children work for extended periods of time in working conditions which affects them in ways they are unable to recover from.
Before the project had begun, I had believed that child labor was limited only to rural areas and slums. But after our research and interviews, I had found that it had spread to cities too, and there were more children working than I ever thought there were. My perspective has also changed, as I used to think that many children had chosen this life. But after finding out just how it ruins their lives, I've realized that no child would ever choose this.
This project had a major impact by reinforcing and adding to my personal perspective, as the research that we did do with the surveys that we had conducted were backing up my views on how child labor was still a major issue in Pakistan. However, I feel like it was only through the hands-on information that we got from these young children that were working in these factories and the workshops that I had realized that child labor was still so common in Pakistan. I'm also glad that the government officials and non-government officials are working to solve this problem by providing affordable and easy education for these children, so in hopes of them getting a better future in their lives.
Child labor is an important issue in the society. By doing further researches and taking interviews, I came to know that not only children are being forced to work, but due to lack of resources and poor condition, they work in places like small cafes and workshops. NGOs like Save the Children are working hard to overcome child labor and save the future.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Daniyal Ahmad, and during our group project, I learned many new things and I had many new experiences. Previously, I wasn't knowing which NGOs or which organizations are working with child labor and how they are working, but after I did my research and we worked as a team, we came across many NGOs and organizations, and we contacted them and interviewed them, and we learned that how they dealt with child labor and how they are affecting and how they are reducing the child.
In our efforts to raise awareness, our group gave a speech during the school assembly where we highlighted the causes and consequences of child labor and shed light on what the people and the government can do to combat it. We also put up a banner alongside many posters around the school to spread awareness. Through these, we advertised our Instagram page, Project Dissemination, where our group promotes the cause and regularly posts content. We've also made an effort to enlighten the government and transgressions on child labor law, since the children that we interviewed were working in Islamabad's PWD, an area where banning child labor should be enforced.